What is going on, everybody? This is Alex coming back at you with another video. And today, of course, we got to run it back with day 2 of Risers and Fallers from the Reese Senior Bowl. Of course, I have media access, so I get to be able to watch every single snap, and I get to watch it live too. So got to love that. Hopefully, you guys are tuning in on ESPN, NFL Network, wherever you guys are being able to see it, because honestly, it's been really fun. There's some really good players. Some of them are being displayed right here in front of you guys. So of course, if you like draft content, like, comment, subscribe, join the community because I make content almost every single day. And without further ado, let's kick into this. Let's have some fun here. And let's start off with the risers of day 2, starting off with the biggest one. And I think y'all know this one was coming. This is Perrion Winfrey, defensive lineman out of Oklahoma. This guy has just been going off day after day. It's been kind of tough not to raise him every day. And I have a top 5. But again, you guys will see this. There's a huge list of guys, because I watched all the snaps, that I think deserve a shout out. But yeah, Perrion Winfrey, if you guys actually got to see my official scouting report, when I first watched him, one of the first things I ever said is this guy is special. Now, his grade is pretty low because I don't think he has a very good football IQ. When you watch him play, he gets absorbed into blocks, doesn't really pay attention to how the play develops. But as a pure talent, his upside is better than any other interior defensive lineman in the class. And like, those high-end reps are ridiculous. I think a team like Tampa Bay could look to have him in the similar to Ndamukong Suh role. I know Ndamukong Suh is a lot larger, but I think someone like Perrion Winfrey might be towards the style of the hyper athletic and hyper upside type of defender that they're looking for. That's one of the few that I actually didn't know where he will be going, but I thought he was going to go mid to late 3rd round because, again, interior defensive linemen just generally don't offer much value. But given how much of an upside this guy is at pass rushing, which we've known this since the start of the year, that this guy has a ton of talent, had a little bit of a down year compared to what we were hoping for, but the talent is there. It's ridiculous. And he's starting to put it together against the top end talent. This guy's probably going to be going in the mid-2nd. So I can see a team like Tampa moving up to get him. You could see other teams as well trying to snatch him, giving him a grade of 64.75 before this ever happened. All these grades that you see down there, draft grade, were initial scouting report grades. So we'll see how that develops as time goes on. But a 2+, nobody has a 2+ on here, mainly because I'm usually right about players. Again, Perrion Winfrey's grade is much closer to a 70. Just, again, that football IQ really hurts it. Similar to Carson Strong, and why his grade is so low is because of his mobility. But number 2, Travis Jones. Oh my gosh, this guy is ridiculous. Like, when you want to, I've been hyping up Travis Jones for a long time now, and this guy has just been putting it all together for us. And there was a little bit hard. There was a lack of tape for a long time, especially when I was looking at interior defensive linemen. So I never got to watch a ton of full games of him. That's why I didn't have an official draft grade. But man, from the snaps I saw how dominant this guy was. It was an insane push. He's 328 pounds, 13% body fat. Like, he puts it all together, and he's just absolutely ridiculous. I love Travis Jones. Again, just can't say enough about him. And people who are saying that the Bills need to take Jordan Davis in the 1st round, no, you don't. This guy can play a 4-3 defensive tackle, which I believe is called a 3 tech. And then you can also put him at nose, which is a 1 tech. Just the guy is hyper versatile. And he could even, I think there was some reps where they have him rush off the edge, but obviously not going to happen. Just the amount of unbelievable finishes that he had, where he was just throwing linemen off him, pushing them onto their asses. This guy is absolutely phenomenal. Big fan of Travis Jones. I think that he could definitely be a late 2nd, early 3rd type of guy. Again, usually those true interior defensive linemen don't get as much value, but a team like the Bills that are looking for a real run stuffer with some pass rushing upside, this is exactly what you're looking for. Number 3, we got Logan Hall. So Logan Hall out of Houston. He had a pretty rough first day, so that's why I don't have him higher than this, but he had a very, very good day 2. And I'm very excited to do day 3 tomorrow, and then we'll talk about the biggest movers overall. But Logan Hall, he had some flashes today or yesterday, but the guy was just absolutely dominant, won by multiple different ways, through pass rushing, through bull rush, through swim move, through spin. This guy has a full toolkit. Again, he probably is going to be reserved for the inside only, but again, you've seen what he could be. I think he moves from a mid to an early 3rd round. I can see like the team, like the Ravens, moving back in the draft or moving up in the third to be able to select him. That 3-4 defensive end spot is not looking too bueno. So being able to get someone like Logan Hall to be able to fit in that position, that would be a perfect fit. And I know my Ravens fans love it because I usually put him there. Number 4, we got Bo Melton. Yeah, I have not given this guy enough love. Just the guy is, I heard the hype and I didn't get to watch Bo Melton during the year. And I was like, okay, well, it's a Rutgers wide receiver. The guy moves extremely well. And obviously, I don't think he's going to be moving anywhere near the Calvin Austin level. Like Calvin Austin, as long as he catches the ball, that guy's special. But Bo Melton, I mean, you just see how he's able to perform one-on-one in coverage. That guy is pretty fantastic. You guys can see the reasons right there. Obviously, I love how he's able to just move very fluidly. Everybody talks about how he's a great release package, and he can separate with speed as well as technique. And again, this is against high-level talent, not just your standard Rutgers type of competition, which no disrespect for the teams that play Rutgers. I know that they're actually in a pretty strong conference, but I thought that there was enough hype on him to get him in the middle of day 3 before. I think you're going to have to target him earlier in day 3. These later guys are starting to show out, and that's a big plus because this wide receiver class was really poor in terms of its depth, starting to round out as being a pretty solid class. And number 5, we got Malik Willis. Got to show some love here for Malik. But I mean, again, the guy just got so much more comfortable. He and Sam Howell, got to shout out Sam Howell too. We'll do that on the next page. But Malik Willis just got way more in rhythm, and you saw check downs happen. And again, I saw a play where it was 2 wide receivers versus 2 DBs, but Calvin Austin did a curl, and obviously the other guy was covered. But Malik Willis didn't force a ball. He waited for Calvin Austin to get open to check it down, which was great. It was nice to see how he got comfortable and was able to go through progressions and then time it properly to get the maximum amount of yards. And even during 7-on-7 drills, I saw him fit it into tight windows over the middle, which guys like Carson Strong, Sam Howell have also done that. But I mean, it was nice to see Malik Willis feel confident in his arm and not go Mr. Checkdown all the time. So big fan of what Malik Willis is doing. This is all the honorable mentions that I have right here. Yes, I watched all the snaps and I couldn't put everybody on the list. And I tried so hard to do so. Greg Dulcich, I got to shout him out because I had to swap him for Grant Calcaterra. But yeah, like Boye Mafe, obviously he doesn't need an introduction. Devontae Wyatt, he was actually on the list, but I wanted to bring someone else who was new on board. Abraham Lucas obviously had some really good reps there. Matt Wiletko, I might have him graded a little bit too early here. He had some pretty poor reps, but there were some of them that looked very NFL caliber. And for somebody who is going to be a day 3 dude, that's a pretty good sign. Tyreek Smith, a guy who he just doesn't have the build in terms of the arm length, or the weight, but he has that speed and he has he's been very solid every year at Ohio State. Again, I actually forgot to transfer Bo Melton out of here, but as you can see, I wrote down all the names of the guys who've been pretty damn spectacular. Kobe Bryant up in there as well. He's obviously a very talented corner, had some very good reps sticking to the hip. Jalen Petrie needs no introduction. Alec Pierce actually did a very good job as well. Khalil Shakir, another guy, doesn't need much of an introduction, good at making separation in short space. Jermaine Johnson, I mean, he's moving up to my edge 3. Like that guy is spectacular. He's tied edge 3 still because again, Karlaftis deserves a lot of love, but Jermaine Johnson's just on another level. D'Angelo Malone, a day 3 prospect. Again, after the 3rd round, it's like a really big drop off. And that's where guys like D'Angelo Malone can definitely step up and get selected. And then Sam Howell, Calvin Austin, need no introduction. Grant Calcaterra, wanted to talk about him. That guy is phenomenal. He's been doing it all the time at SMU. Of course, I go watch the games myself, living in Dallas. Speaking of, look at that. It's snowing in Dallas. Crazy. But Grant Calcaterra has been absolutely phenomenal, and I love him. He's a really good receiving threat, and I have him actually graded here. I'll show you guys. I have him graded out as a late 3rd. And then Dameon Pierce, he had some very good blocking reps in there, showed some good skill. So I like that. Let's talk about some fallers here. And number 1 is going to be Andrew Stuber. So this guy had a pretty strong day 1. So I was like, wow. I mean, he looked big. He looked like he had some good reps in there, but he looked really poor yesterday or today in terms of what we're talking about, but just a guy who needs a lot of work. But I think a team that could maximize his potential is the Ravens. He flashed a lot, and this is a team that doesn't need him to start immediately. So I think that if you see the tools there, which again, the tools are, that's a good target in the 5th round, right? That's where you target people who have shown some stuff, but aren't actually there yet. So big fan of what Andrew Stuber could be. Again, just not going to be the guy for me right now. Number 2, Trevor Penning's continuing to fall. You can look at the Twitter down in the description below. It's actually, I might need to update that because we changed it to Hail Mary Sports finally over my own personal account. But Trevor Penning has been doing pretty garbage. First, you saw yesterday, he threw a defender, which one is, it's terrible. It's bad sportsmanship anyways. You don't throw people, especially in that type of practice. But 2, threw it into the quarterback. So as much as I'm not a fan of Desmond Ridder, I never think that a guy should get hurt. That's stupid. I think people should play to as well as they can, because watching good football is a lot more fun than watching somebody who you like or don't like. It's just, it's wrong. But regardless, Trevor Penning continues to get driven back, which is something I didn't expect exactly. I did not have a very high anchor grade on Trevor Penning, but this is much worse than I expected. However, I had him already graded out as a 61.25, which is borderline 4th round if you just follow a straight grading scale. But again, I don't follow a grading scale. I just use it as a guide. But I think he's going to be slipping to the mid to late 2nd round at this point. And a team like the New York Giants, still, you have Brian Daboll there. You have that connection. I had him trade up in my mock draft this week before the Senior Bowl to be able to select Trevor Penning. I think they can sit pretty now and be able to select him at that spot, if not trade back and be able to still get him. So Trevor Penning out of UNI, he has a lot of what you could like. There's just a lot to work on. And a team like the Giants, I mean, it's not going to be much of a downgrade ever. I don't know how much worse you could get. So number 3, you got Bernard Raymond. So he had one really good rep. I forgot it was against who, but he had a very solid rep. That's why I didn't put him any higher, but definitely has been struggling. He's been struggling quite a bit. And, he's a guy who people were saying is going to be a 1st round lock. And he's a guy who played tight end 2 years ago, right? But he definitely looked very raw. And a team like the Steelers, where our right tackle situation isn't good, I'm a Steelers fan, definitely could be able to snag him as he falls a little bit. Again, just you have to be able to have this guy grow a little bit. People I think thought that he was going to come in and just light it up. That's just not going to happen. It's very rare that you could switch positions within 2 years, going from a tight end to a tackle, and then all of a sudden be a king. I had him already graded as a 63.2 or 63.5. So I'm not going to be changing that grade. I think it's pretty representative of where he is. But again, Bernard Raymond, just a little bit concerning. And we're going to see a little bit of a theme here because number 4, we got another tackle on the board. I think the offensive line looks pretty weak this class, and I've been saying it, but it looks weaker than expected. But Max Mitchell out of Louisiana, again, just a guy, I think he was against Jermaine Johnson, though, so I will give him a little bit more credit. That's why he's at number 4. Might be lowering his grade a little bit here, but again, just a lot of very poor losses, and there wasn't like a standout rep. Similar, Bernard Raymond had a very good rep that came in during the one-on-ones, but there wasn't really one for Max. Excuse me. But he wasn't able to maintain control. He wasn't able to look as good as I thought he was. So I think a team that could slide back and get him or trade up in the 3rd would be the Bengals, who are looking for a right tackle. Again, this guy has a lot to love. He's graded higher than Trevor Penning and Bernard Raymond, according to my scale. But again, that doesn't mean that he's a better player. But I think that he could definitely be there for a team that's looking for someone to potentially take the leap at right tackle. Number 5, we got Bailey Zappy. He was a mover up yesterday, and I still think he has moved up overall because he's shown that he has some amazing passes. My big issue, the reason I actually put him on here, is because if you saw during the 7-on-7 drills, there was a couple balls where he just threw it and it died. It was just boop right into the ground. It didn't even reach the receiver 10 yards, 15 yards out. And it kind of reminded me of some of the passes that I have thrown to like some of my friends and stuff. And just while I'm just tossing the ball around, it didn't look NFL caliber arm. But again, you do see some of these balls that go 40 something yards. So he has enough to get it there. It just might not be consistent enough. However, when you see some of these drills, there was a ball to Isaiah Likely that was just perfectly on the money. And it was like 25 yards downfield on a post, or no, on a corner. That was great. I like to see that. And that's why I still think he's a late 3rd round pick, like still a phenomenal player, but just there's some red flags there. Again, there was actually a bad pass in 7-on-7 where he threw it right into a defender. It's just like, what are you doing there, man? And this is something that I've been talking about for a little while now, is that he's had a hard time leaving his offensive system. That's my big knock on him over at Western Kentucky, besides his arm strength. And he was forcing balls a lot to his first read, just continue to stare down targets. But again, the big issue here is the fact that he's paired up with Malik, Willis, and Sam Howell, who had very good days. If he were on the national team, which we'll talk about soon, there wouldn't really be much of a discrepancy. There wouldn't be much of like, oh my God, like Bailey Zapp just doesn't look as good as the other guys. He'd probably be the best out of them for day 2. So again, Bailey Zappy, not somebody who I think is bad at all, just slipped a little bit. We brought him up to that early to mid 3rd from that early 4th, and now we're just going to move him back a little bit to a late 3rd. Still think a 69.5 grade. I mean, again, it's pretty representative of how my grading scale is already built, and there's nothing that surprised me here, nothing at all. And number 6, I gotta add a number 6 in here. I gotta add in Zion Johnson. There's gonna be no change to him, but as much as I love how he's just been working his ass off, and big cheers to him for that, and I love it. He just had some really bad losses in one-on-ones. I don't think people are talking about it enough, because he had some very good practices. I believe on the 9-on-7s, it's where you have like the offensive line versus the defensive, the box. But again, Zion Johnson is somebody who'll still go probably to the Bills in the 1st. I can see him. I could really see Zion Johnson and Travis Jones being their first 2 picks. But, still a phenomenal player. I just have to put it in there. I have to put it in there that he didn't play as well as people are saying he's playing. Still a great athlete and a phenomenal worker. And I think that's going to be something that teams love. But it has to be said, he's not going to get that boost to the 70.25 that I have him in, which is going to be graded out as a 2nd rounder, which is perfectly fine. So yeah. So we got some dishonorable mentions here. Forgot to take Trevor Penning out again, but still got to add in another one for Trevor Penning. And yeah, that was the former draft projection, early mid 2nd, now going to be a mid to late. Damari Mathis out of Pitt. Guy just couldn't stick to someone's hip in coverage. I thought that he did pretty poorly. So I think he's going to be going there in the mid 6th. And yeah, this is the one I want to talk about, the national quarterbacks, the national team. So that's going to be Kenny Pickett, Carson Strong, as well as Desmond Ridder. They had some really, really bad passes. Like there was just some terrible misses in there. They did not look comfortable, did not look in rhythm. And funnily enough, I have the national quarterbacks ranked as number 4, number 6, and I think number 8, or maybe number 7, number 8 on my quarterback rankings. It's starting to look like that. Now, I think that Carson Strong has done a great job on some of his throws, did some great layering passes, but besides that, I'm not getting a vibe from these guys. And I think people are starting to see that. I think that Kenny Pickett is starting to lose ground to guys like Sam Howell and Malik Willis, who are heating up. And especially through the rain, through the wind, these guys are able to put the ball still on the money. That is a big plus, especially the teams that might be drafting, that might be playing in the snow, that might be playing in the rain. People are doing donuts outside on the snow. Gotta love it. But I think that it's starting to highlight the fact that guys like Kenny Pickett are not solidified QB1s, like I've been saying. Then, of course, Max Mitchell, we already highlighted him. Kingsley Enagbare, or Nagbari, whatever you want to call him. He's had some very good reps. So that's why I didn't want to put him in here at all. But he never had those dominant reps. You look at, in the one-on-ones, where the normal one-on-one practices, I know he just totally plowed over. I forgot who it was, but he just straight up took him into the line of dudes waiting. He's still a dominant threat. But I'm putting him here because he's not doing enough versus guys like even Arnold Ebiketie is doing a little bit more. But obviously Jermaine Johnson has jumped ahead. Myjai Sanders is having some elite reps. He's jumping arguably ahead of Kingsley Enagbare. So the only reason he's in the dishonorable is because other people are doing more, not because he's doing less, because he's still doing a phenomenal job. Darion Kendrick's continuing to fall. I thought I might add him into the main list, but I decided to keep him here. Just a guy that he's looking really unathletic. I would not be surprised if he falls out of day 2. I really wouldn't. Just for right now, we're going to do it. I think, again, in a scheme where he can play some zone, play off man, that's probably going to be the best for him. Doesn't look like he's an elite athlete, and just something that it's going to be a big indictment on his career if he's not able to get quicker twitch. So yeah, Darion Kendrick, I wish that he would play better. He just isn't. Next, we got Velus Jones Jr., and this is solely because of his drops. The guy's been getting good separation. Also, I think he's like 25 or something. He's a class of 2017, 2016. So yeah, a guy that he has what it takes to be a really good returner, day 1 impact special teamer, but I can't see him going any earlier than the 7th, especially given the age. So he's probably going to be UDFA. Still showed some good stuff there, but again, dropping the ball multiple times, that's a big no-no. So Zaquandre Wright is next. Just a guy, again, running back's not very valuable in the first place. That's why he's UDFA. But he did pretty terribly in the blocking drills. Just dudes went right around him. And as a running back, you have to be able to at least touch the guy, knock him a little bit off course. I'm just not a fan of Zaquandre compared to other dudes. So I might bite it if he ends up becoming good in the league, and I'm perfectly fine saying I'm wrong, but did not see anything that I loved right there. Isaiah Likely was next. We're going to see quite a few of these tight ends on here, and I'll explain myself. But Isaiah Likely, just a guy that he didn't separate enough, both literally and metaphorically. He didn't get enough separation on his routes to warrant him to be like this wide receiver tight end hybrid that I think I've been trying to hype him up as, and a lot of people were. Just a guy, he hasn't been able to perform at the level that we were hoping for against higher level content or higher level competition. Yusuf Corker looks like crap. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to move my camera here so you guys can see what I'm talking about. Yusuf Corker looked really bad, just giving up room to nobodies. And it's just, I think it was Grant Calcaterra he might have been in coverage on. Just did not look good at all. Jeremy Rooker is next, a guy who he's having a hard time blocking, which is one of the things that I used to like about him. And actually, as I started watching more tape, it started becoming obvious that he wasn't that good. So I think early 4th is being a little generous for him. He's probably going to slip a little bit further than that. Jerome Ford, another guy who just can't block for his life. Didn't really see much of upside with him in the first place. Chad Muma, it hurts me to say this, but he looked really bad trying to pass rush versus running backs. And that was one of the things I really liked about him. So I'm going to be lowering his grade a little bit there. And Trey McBride just didn't wow me enough, especially in terms of blocking. Just didn't look comfortable doing it. So he's still solidified as the number 1 tight end, especially with guys who are close to him, like Likely also failing in this Senior Bowl. Just in general, not a huge fan of how they're doing. But that is going to be the video. Let me know if you guys had anybody that you saw caught your eye. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you on the far side. Peace.